So, today we have the one and only Stuart Geddes from Advizion on the Success or Excuses podcast. So, Stuart, listen, I want to start off with just, why don't you give us a wee brief introduction and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, sure. Well, firstly, James, thanks a million for having me on. I really do appreciate it. My name's Stuart Geddes. I 40 years old. I live in west of Scotland with my wife and two kids. I own a company called Advizion, and I've got interests in, I would say, my business, of course, my family, cooking and fitness. I like to keep fit. And I own a digital signage business called Advizion, which I've had many highs and lows at, as I'm sure we all have during an entrepreneurial journey. And as your podcast is brilliantly named, I've had many successes and I have different probably excuses in my head at the same time. So I think it's quite a good thing, a good podcast or a good interview to be having, because it really rings true with me. A lot of the things I've faced and experienced through my time, both personally and commercially.
And we're going to be talking about some of the personal and professional stuff. Well, we're going to talk about the food stuff as well, because I know we've got a couple of nice wee stories on that. I remember watching you on TV.
That's very true. Yeah.
So we'll talk about it. So let's go back to the early years. Let's go back to the young Stuart. Was it insurance or something? What was it? You were in sales or something, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a keen golfer as well. I should probably say one of my hobbies. Actually, I'm surprised that I missed that. It's amazing when you get put in camera. You suddenly forget who you are.
Who am I again? What's that, Dave?
Exactly. Man. My elevator speech right in the window there. I'm a keen golfer, and when I was younger, I didn't really know what.
How keen? What were you playing off of? This is quite scary.
Scratch golfer. I'd really enjoyed it when I was younger, and I thought to myself, maybe I could go and turn pro and make a living. Maybe not necessarily on tour, but maybe as some sort of club pro or coaching level. And there's a lot of good careers in golf out with being, And at that point, you can maybe look to get more into getting coached yourself and maybe progress a little bit onto like some mini tours and stuff like that. I thought it might have been a good career. Anyways, my mum and dad helped me go to the States, and I went over to America and part of a golf scholarship.
Wow.
So I was over there for a couple of years playing on a golf, a college golf circuit, and getting doing like a business marketing degree that I was doing over there. But it was very very expensive to be out there because I wasn't a full ride scholar. To be a full ride scholar, you really need to be like a full international or be playing like GB and I kind of stuff, and I wasn't at that level certainly. And I loved it, but I was over there. I was obviously partying and having fun and doing all the things that you do, and also playing at the golf circuit. But being very expensive to stay over there, it was becoming difficult for my parents really to afford it and stuff like that, And my dad ran into a little bit of difficulty with his job and stuff like that. So it wasn't to be for the 4 years. So when I came back after a couple of years, which I really enjoyed, by the way, it was time to go back into work, And I'd previously had a job at Scottish Power, and then I got that job back, and then I went into insurance sales job, telesales role basically. I was just like, I need to earn some more money. This job pays me more. I wasn't really caring or giving a shit. I was just like,
it's fair to say you're pretty driven. Would that be a fair comment?
Definitely, man. I just wanted to earn money, man. I wanted to get and party with my mates and do the things that you do. And so that was it. So I went along there, and we were doing insurance sales, AXA Insurance. And it went well, it was leads coming into the bank, and we were then converting those leads into commercial insurance, basically. But again, I was wanting more, and I thought the sales are going reasonably well here. I didn't really know much about it. I had no real sales training, and I thought I would maybe look at the field sales. I always thought I wanted the company car. That was cool to me. I thought, you've made it. My dad had a company car, and I used to think that was cool,
That was success.
That was successful, man. If I got a free brief, I was rolling. You know what I mean? But so when I went for that, I got a job at Neopost. Now Neopost were one of two competitors in the market selling mailroom equipment like franking machines. It was in Pitney Bowes. And I get taken down to this office with Neopost for an interview down in Romford in North London, and it was a really glamorous office. It looked high flying. There was loads of sales guys. They were ringing bells, and it was. I thought, oh, I quite fancy this. By the way, there was a lot of BMWs get parked up outside, or the sales guys, and I get brought in there, and so yeah, we get brought in as like a training apprentice. So at the time, it was really quite cool. What they did was they had an apprentice, a training mentorship basically of different salespeople around the UK. So they had a boy from Glasgow, your boy here. We had somebody from like Leeds, London, all over the place. So there was like 10, 12 recruits that were in at the same time. And we would do sales training and then go into the field to do some sales and come back with our results. And we would all be sharing the same experiences. But all the guys on the course were brilliant. And we were going out and getting wellied up and all that, and having fun in London and Romford. It was brilliant crack. You know what I mean? I actually look forward to going to the sales training. So actually, because it was those good guys on it with us, you know. So that was good. So I started doing some sales and doing quite well. But then what happened was there was a guy that was selling like the sales software, the new post software. So that was, imagine bringing in like all your mailroom equipment in the council, for instance, or a bank into one room. So as opposed to you hitting print and going to a printer and costing print costs, it would go to one mailroom. It would all be salted for the Royal Mail, and it would all be printed and stuffed into envelopes. And we were selling these big, massive envelope stuffing machines and software to go with it. So this guy was running amok, but he was looking for somebody to set up leads for him. And this guy was a top sales guy in the company, and they would want me to come in and maybe take over his role at some point around Scotland. So I get involved in that, but it just never really worked out that well because a lot of the leads were coming in for him anyway. So it just became really challenging for me, actually. And at that point, you know, the writing was a wee bit on the wall for me because I wasn't selling for myself. And it was, I kind of got sold a dream in that position, and I left in a really difficult situation. And I was like, man, this is not going to work out here, you know. So I then looked for a job, and that's when I get taken on to Capital Solutions. Capital Solutions are a major Scottish supplier of printers and photocopiers. Probably one of the biggest in Scotland. They were on the Scottish framework, you know, along with like all your big guys, your Xeroxes and Canons and Konicas and all that kind of stuff. And then I got a job there straight away. I interviewed well there, and they took me on as a salesperson. And I really feel that's where my
photocopier sales. That was a tough business, wasn't it?
Tough gig, man. And there's a lot of companies doing it. You know, where there's money, there comes competition.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And like there were so many companies doing it, but the problem is these guys were running amok in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and I think these guys thought it was going to last forever. So when I get in, maybe in the noughties, the sort of late noughties or early tens, it was definitely in its decline. But regardless, I needed a job and I needed money, man. So I was like, this is what I wasn't, and obviously I was involved in business equipment sales already, so I had that experience, you know. So that was a natural progression into that role. I interviewed for that. I got it fairly quickly, and they were just basically, it wasn't like they were UK wide. They were just a Scottish business, very, very proud of their Scottish roots, and that was owned by a guy called Tom Flockhart. So I guess he was probably my first main business influence that I really looked up to. I mean, this guy was grade A nuts. I mean, he was absolutely mental. I mean, you would like this dude. He's cut for your. He's cut, because you're wild a bit different. You know what I mean? But this guy was wild, different, man. He was like a bull in a china shop. He was very like. I always say
that sounds like you taste you for some reason.
Well, I know you. I don't know, man. It's hard to comment on yourself, isn't it? But the guy was could be classed as an aggressive guy at times, but he was very forthright, major opinions, incredible leader, incredible speaker, incredible motivator. But you had to be on his side, and if you went on his side, I would suggest this guy could be classed as a bit of a, I'm not going to use the word bully, but it could be a bit intimidating to people. And
that was the style back then, though, wasn't it? Remember, that was the style. So we could handle it back then.
This guy was built for nothing. He built the company for nothing. Corporate sales, out knocking doors, and he's telling his story all the time, out knocking doors around the south of Glasgow, canvassing at weekends, and you know, he was a really enthusiastic, mental guy, man. That's the only way I could describe this dude. You know what I mean? If anybody is watching,
and you looked up to him,
he liked me. You know what I mean? It was made life easier. Because he liked me because I was out knocking doors and I was pulling in business. And they basically had like a lot of people around, certainly hours. When I was there at the time, you know, there was a lot of people around the Glasgow area trying to fill my role, but it was a revolving door, you know, and there wasn't. So I was the first one that really managed to succeed at new business, because the rest of the guys just had all the accounts and they were rolling the accounts over. You know, a new 3 or 4 or 5 year deal. But because Capital is such a big copier base, these guys had it pretty easy, in my opinion. Whereas I was at the industrial estates banging doors, and I was managing to pull in some business. you know, they almost try to bin me after the first 4 months. I remember I get pulled into and told I've got one more chance, really, because I see the sales weren't quite there. After having one successful month, I had 2 poor. But I just started and I thought it was really unfair. And then it just went like a light switch. And the sales just started getting better and better and better and better. And they were like, oh, brilliant. And no.
That's a success or excuses moment, isn't it?
Matt, it was.
Yeah.
It really was. I mean, I remember being told, hold over the coals, and I was like, oh, I can't believe this. This is after my first great month, you know, and second month, it went no sales. Third month, nothing. And I was like, oh, man, I need something here, man. And it just dropped in like the 4th month, I think. And after that, you know, I was like walking on water. That I could do no wrong.
Yep.
The company loved me, you know what I mean? And I was like the new sales guy bringing in business, coming through the business, and he recognised that. And he was always used to bring, when we go out to the big team meeting with like 30 sales guys, he would bring me up and he would mention me in the whole team meeting. And I know what he was doing now, you know what I mean? He could see potential in me, and he was wanting to offer me that recognition in front of the company. And he did, and it made me feel great, you know, and he knew what he was doing, man. It was good, but I loved it. I mean, I was just like that. And everybody was calling me Tom's boy, and all that. I remember all that carry on, you know what I mean? Like, they would always be like, you're Tom's. I used to get digs in the office because they really like a lot of the older sales guys, in particular 2 of them. He was really hard on them because they would do the same numbers every month. They would make him money.
Easy.
They would make him money, but they would never kick on. He was wanting somebody to kick on. He would be like talking about, listen,
he wants drive.
Like, I want you to buy the new house. I want you to pin your new house up in that wall. I want you to see that house every day. It was all this stuff, you know, all that stuff I've talked about yourself over the years, James, you know, and it's always write down your goals. I want to see your goals written down. I want you to work with you towards your goals, you know. I'm not paying you any extra salary, by the way. You'll be earning this. Do you know what I mean? All this kind of stuff, you know. And but that was it. So I was quite well liked, and then what happened was you know, I was doing well, but I always felt I was due more. After 3 years, I was still there doing new business sales, and I was like, well, where's my accounts, man? Like, these guys are just sitting selling these accounts, man. Where's my? I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years, making you money.
Time for you to step up.
I was like, I can look after accounts and bring in new business. You know, that's what I felt like. I felt these guys aren't bringing in the new business which they should, you know, and I felt like it was time for I wanted more opportunity, and that wasn't forthcoming. So at that point, I started having a itchy feet, and at that point, I looked around and I got a job with EE or Orange at the time. But the problem was Orange and Orange and T-Mobile were forming EE. And I don't know why they were taking guys on at this time, right? But basically, it was such an uncomfortable, such a difficult time to take somebody on. But I get taken on, and again, interviewed well, taken on straight away, which was strong. And the problem was that I just get started. I was brand new into telecoms or the industry, but eventually after a few months, we were told that we would be pretty much competing with the T-Mobile guy for our area. And I looked at the T-Mobile guy who was ultra experienced and all that, and I was like, man, this isn't going to. I don't know if it's going to work. You know what I mean? I don't know why they're taking me on at this point. You know, and I just get. I just was trying to think smart, really, about myself, really, self-preservation.
Absolutely.
And I thought, they're looking at a brand new guy in the industry, me, 3 months, and a T-Mobile guy that's been here forever, like feet under the carpet completely. I thought, I'm going to have no chance here, man. Like, you know, I don't know. I'll just be doing the new business. I won't get any accounts or whatever. So at that point, I was literally just like, I don't know what to do here. And then my mate was punting copiers. He just started a small copier company. My mate Jason, he lives in Australia. And he's like, look, come and shift a few copiers for me. And I did, but he was planning to move to Australia. And then as I was shifting a few copiers, I was actually getting the true commission of the copier sales in comparison to what I was getting at Capital. And I realised...
So I'm getting a wee cut, you were getting the commission.
Even the cut, man, they would give you an inflated price to sell off. So let's just say they were buying a copy around for $1,000. They were telling you the copier cost them $2,000. So do you know what I mean? So you're actually making them that $1,000 before you get your commission of the $2,000 above, you know what I mean? And that my jaw hit the floor when I seen like how cheap you could buy them in for in comparison to what you could sell them for. And I was like, I can shift these neighbour on. And I was like, this is madness, man. I'm starting my own company.
Success or excuses, mate.
I mean, this is madness. I was like, Jason can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? This is. And I looked at what I was making. I was making more than what I was making, even with a wage at Capital. And I was like, let's do this, man. So I had £1,000 in my back cap. I remember this, or maybe just over that. I built the most basic, shittest website you've seen. A guy in a golf club built it for me for like £100 or something. And I bought my pack of business cards. And that was me in this wee shoebox office, smaller in my first bedroom. It's just me, a phone, a laptop and a pad. And that's what I had, and a pack of business cards. and I just got down to business, shifting second-hand copiers. I used to have a wee deal that I would do. It was like I would buy the copier in for like 600 quid, tart it up to for about $1,000 till it was looking good and in good nick, and I could shift it for 3.5 on a finance basis. I think it was 75 quid a month over 5 years, if memory serves me correct. And it was my deal.
Aye.
You know what I mean? It was just the deal that I would revert back to, and I was good at shifting that deal, and I'd make 2.5 on it.
Wow.
You know, I would get 2, and I would maybe a little bit. Obviously, then obviously you've got all your business costs,
your overheads and everything.
That gets quickly snapped up. Anyways, that was the sort of deals that I could do. And I got down to business. I remember my first year I turned over 75 grand.
Wow.
You know, I remember that. Well,
that's good.
Then it was just shifting second-hand copiers. So, but I made a living. I got by. It wasn't like I was. So I was glad to get through the first year. I made a little bit of money. I had the roof over my head in the office, and at that point, you know, when you looked at the second year, there was a couple of copies I had in the wee office where I could demo them and stuff like that. So I was starting to make a little bit of progress, and then I built it, you know, all the way up to being able to take on my engineer. And when I took on the engineer, that's when I felt like I had a wee business.
Right. You were a business owner now.
I was a business because I felt like I'd offer a good service. Although I would tell people, you know, I could look after it, I could get a copier out, but you know, I had to sub the service out. And I was subbing out to good companies and all that, you know what I mean? But to have somebody in-house, I just felt like I was getting places at that point, you know. But obviously the market was the market, and it's a digital era, and the paperwork was going down, and how the copier industry works still, you know, you would shift the copier and you would get what's called a cost per copy. That was referred to as your click, cost per click. You would charge something like half a penny a black and white click and 4 or 5p a colour click.
And you just change the cartridges as required.
Yeah, we change them as I'm going, and you know, you would just tick it away that, but you would notice your click through time was going down. You know, even your best clients were doing less and less and less click. You know, and the click was just would tick you over, cover your engineers' cost mostly, and it would tick you over. It wasn't like I was making any crazy money over that, but I was. The one thing I liked about the business when I was recognising the business was that recurring revenue. I was taught recurring revenue all the way for Tom Flockhart. That's what the business is worth, you know. And that
the cheapest revenue is recurring revenue, isn't it?
Recurring revenue. It's just getting and you know, one of the things I did later on in that business was sign up with a direct debit system and get them on that. Invest in a bit of software as well, which would then pick up the meter reads automatically, and then we could and I get an admin person who would then read the meter reads and then issued invoice via direct debit, and that would just keep ticking away. And I loved that. I mean, that was good just to have that safety net of a little bit of money coming in every month, which I never had at the start, because I felt at the start, I mean, I was literally like every month I was ready to if it go pop. Do you know what I mean? There was no,
don't sell a copy, I'm in trouble.
I didn't shut a copy, I was in trouble. I was literally looking for a payday every single day, man. It was just like, without having to seem too desperate. I mean, I bloody needed it. You know, there's no question on that. And obviously it's still like that today, you know. So
what was the next chapter then? So we had the copy in business.
The copies, I ran that for, went for Trident House to a commercial unit in Linwood, about up to about 150 contracts.
Wow.
And that was tough considering the industry was on the decline, and it was already so saturated. And the industry's nasty. It's not, I realise that now, so I'm not in that industry anymore, but it was a horrible industry, James. You know, horrid. Everyone's just shaft. Everyone's just out to get you, and everyone's just out to, he's a scumbag, he's this. Everyone's just slagging each other off to customers constantly, and then the industry's quite small with all the sales guys.
Trying to steal business, basically.
It was, and then there was so many, like, it was on Watchdog, all the things that you could do with the copier contracts to shaft businesses, and people were very wary about the copier guys. Obviously, I did everything, you know, ethically and all that, and I never had any issues at all, you know.
A lot of the bigger companies didn't. We wouldn't name any names, but a lot of bigger companies. I mean, I've got a few friends that were in that industry as well, and a lot of, I mean, some of the stories
it's
about
horrific.
Naughty contracts.
Contracts that auto-renew after 5 years and you're stuck in for another 5 years. You just cannot get out, and marketing schemes.
Can't get away with that shit.
Marketing schemes for companies that then go bust, and you know, people not settling up old agreements, and companies left high and dry. Companies doing all-inclusive contracts and then closing down. You know, it was horrible. You know, it was not nice at all. You know, and one thing what I've learned in my current industry in comparison is a lot in our industries, you know, competitors help each other. You know what I mean? They're friendly towards each other. That industry was not that. You know what I mean? They were just people ready for war. I always felt. You know what I mean? Over bloody printers and photocopiers, which I thought was pretty mad. You know. So, anyways, we're on there to my unit in Linwood, and we built it up. And at that point, I get introduced to a manufacturer called Sharp. Now, what Sharp were doing was Sharp do a lot of visual stuff as well as photocopiers. So we were shifting Sharp copiers, and Sharp came in and said, well, by the way, we do touchscreens, we do, you know, TVs and all sorts of commercial visual products, right? And they said, you know, to complement your copiers, why don't you maybe look to introduce some of the visual line to some of your current clients? So on my books, I had a lot of nursery schools. Nursery schools was a good target, small target market. I mean, we seem to get referred around different nurseries, but nurseries use touchscreens. Now, my wife's a primary teacher, and so I'm very familiar with that kind of you know, line of work. And we introduced the touchscreens for kids to do like games on and interactive stuff, whatever. So I said, look, I've got a touchscreen available if you're interested in your renewing your copy, maybe I can include that in the lease. And we're like, yeah, man, I really look at like a touchscreen. So I was just including that. And my engineers at the time, we could just install it ourselves. It was just putting this TV on the wall, right? You know, and I just thought this is fairly straightforward. So it went on for that. And then we had another client who did commercial ice cream, Equi's ice cream, a guy called David Equi, and he was my first client for the menu screens. And they're still in there to this day, by the way, in Hamilton, Burnbank Road in Hamilton. And
I know exactly where it is.
Aye. So that was he was one of my first to do the menus, and they went in like a dream. They're still there to this day. And I was like, oh, that was menu screens that went in, and then we put the content on the screens. There was a wee bit of work involved in that, and we put in the digital signage software, meaning we or they could connect it remotely. It all went well, man. And we subbed it out, of course, right, and we managed it, and it went well. Got paid for it. Then I started shifting a few more screens here and there, and I was like, do you know what, there's something in this. And I was actually quite enjoying the industry. I was enjoying it, you know what I mean? I was like, and then I looked at the copier and all the hassle, the copier industry, you know, like fixing machines and carting them about and lifting machines and just all the stuff. And see, the truth be known, James, I never loved the industry one little bit. You know, I loved the commercial aspect of the industry. I loved growing my business, and I was proud of my business, and I liked going out and doing all the stuff. You're a
great salesman. Let's be honest. You know how to, you can talk the talk.
I feel I could present myself, and I feel I could get orders. There's no question about that, you know, and I do believe myself, you know, and that was. And at the copy industry, I looked at my click, just going down and down and down and down, and I was like, this is a race to the bottom here, Stuart. So you're not enjoying it. It's a race to the bottom. You better punt this well so you can get something for it.
Again, another successor excuses.
Right.
Path in it.
Aye. Massive, man. 100%. So that was that. So I thought I better shift this before. At that point, my wife was pregnant with Camden. So it was a terrible time. But
you've got a theme going on here. It's always not the right time, but you do it anyway.
But I was like, I was like, I'm doing it. So I was like,
you can swear, by the way, if you need to.
I wasn't too sure. It was something I should have been asked at this time.
Yeah, you can. So it's that kind of podcast. I don't mind.
I like your style, James. But and that was it. So I thought, right, so that was it. So I went out to the market, put a few feelers out there, and there was a few different opportunities to sell it. What I quickly came to realise, much like Tom Flockhart taught me for day one, the company's only as good as the click, and it was based on the how many contracts you've got and the click that you got. So so basically, a few people came out to make us some offers with 3 or 4 offers on the table. Man, it was sought after. There was no question. It was sought after, man. We had, and that was. Yeah, we took the best offer. Of course we did. You know, a lot. Some of the offers were, you know, offering us to pay up and stuff like that, and installments and all that. You know, but then
he just wanted.
And a
guy, give me the money, I'm out.
A guy came in and he offered it all up front, man. And I was like, obviously we got solicitors involved and everything else, and we did everything the best way we could, and it was a lot of negotiating. But the problem was my wife, her waters broke 3 months early, man. So the condition we had was preeclampsia. Yeah. And we don't officially know it was preeclampsia on the first pregnancy. Yeah. Definitely the next one. Yeah. However, we think that we're fairly certain that's what it was now, basically based on what we'll talk about in a minute, what's then happened, basically. So my wife waters burst, she was rushed to hospital. So I was basically, while she was in the hospital with no waters, and we were trying to keep Camden in, trying to keep him alive and safe and all that. He was only £2 odd, you know. It was really, really concerning. And at that time, I remember I was in there, and I was outside the hospital get back up to the room and the hospital, and I just sit with him. We're just waiting with nothing really to do, and I was outside negotiating the sale of my business. Whilst I was
this is going on in your life.
Trying to negotiate the survival of my son. You know, it was
wow.
Honestly, man,
That must have been hectic, man.
It was hectic. It was.
I don't even have words probably to describe it.
But I needed it. But the business sale was so far down the line, and then my son made more. You know, there was nothing I could do.
You seem to thrive under pressure, Stuart. What's going on?
I don't know, man. So, anyways, that was so we managed. My son was born. I was in intensive care in the Wishaw University Hospital. He could take. We're from Erskine, you know what I mean. So all the way down there, and we were going down there for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and out there every single day, you know. And that was tough going. And at that point as well, just I can't remember if it was at the end of that, whatever. But we managed to negotiate the sale of the business basically. And then the money transferred across, man. And when I got my money, I was like jackpot, man. I was absolutely buzzing. That was it was a high, man. You know, because I could really just see the future opening up for me at that point. Yeah. So when I got that, you know, I cleared off some bits and pieces debt wise to different bits of my life, whatever, and got myself on a good footing to move forward. And I started Advizion. Advizion, yes. Advizion.
And this is how I met you, wasn't it?
Correct, yeah. I started Advizion, and that was out the same unit in Linwood. So basically just changed over from Document 6 to Advizion, and we I built the office, spent a lot of money in the office, and
your office is cracking it. You put an amazing job in it.
Put in some new screens to act like a small showroom as well as have the office in there, just so we had a bit of credibility, basically, you know. And my son came through. Cam, done really well in intensive care, and he came right through, man. And we took him home after being transferred to Paisley. So it all worked out with Cam, and we started our new lives with my son, my wife in Erskine, and my Advizion was born as well as Camden. Do you know what I mean? So that year of 20, Camden was born in December 2018. So I was at 2018, right? And it's 2019 really when we got going, really, you know. And
it was 2019 I met you, wasn't it?
I think so, mate. I think so.
Early
At that point, I was, you know, I wasn't too sure how to take the business forward, because the truth be known, James, I never owned a visual company. I have absolutely no experience.
But you had a wee taste of it, so you kind of knew where the future was going.
I had a taste of it, man, but in comparison to what I know now and some of the experienced guys in the industry, I mean, an absolute novice. I mean, I was winging it, mate. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't winging it to feel like what I could do, though. I mean, I could do the menu screens and the interactive screens, and that's what I started doing. And I had various success cases of those already. But, you know, I feel like in this industry, there's an audio-visual, or the industry that I'm in now, the digital signage, that you need to earn your stripes to get to do certain things. Like to build a media wall is a totally different animal from just installing a menu screen to suspend screens above people's heads using a cherry pickers and steel frames. A full construction project,
big screens,
the big outdoor projects which we now do, is a whole different animal than installing a 32-inch screen in somebody's.
And that's how you started with the touch screens and all that.
Somebody's chip shop, you know. So that's what we started doing, because we knew how to do it, and I knew I was comfortable and confident in doing that, you know. So
you also obviously, I know that part of the story. Other than that, you're really good at seeing opportunities. Like, you seen opportunities to, rather than subcontract software, let's build our own. Yeah. Rather than subcontract this, let's do it ourselves. You've always been able to kind of, always see opportunities every time there's a challenge.
Yeah, I think so. I think you learn that, but I think what I've been taught and what I've learned, even dealing with successful guys like yourself, James, is that I'm always, like, in business, trying to find something that's going to take me to the next step out with my day-to-day business. So I'm always looking for that opportunity, or that bit of software, or something that's going to help the business. Yeah. You know, but it's just been trial and error, and so many errors, man. But now, like,
but that's what you need. That's what a lot of people don't get. But don't you think you've got to get it wrong in order to get it right?
Totally, 100%. I mean, and that's me. I've just been making, tweaking the mistake. Oh, that's another mistake. Tweaking that other mistake.
Absolutely.
I tried subcontracting out. I'm bringing that back in house, and yeah. So I think on your question on spotting opportunity, I think that for me comes down to like always having one eye open for improvement. You know, I'm going to improve consistently, and it's not just doing it the day to day is installing screens, running a bit of software, getting the contracts out onto the next one, etc. But how am I going to take it to the next level? I'm not going to get that just by putting my head in the sand and keep on working and working.
Keep doing the same thing and expecting different results is insanity.
Correct. Yeah, man, very much that. And so I just know that if I set a long-term goal, I need the short-term goal first. To get the short-term goal, I need to dial it all the way down to what I'm doing that particular day.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
your HPAs, the actions and activities are going to drive you towards that big ultimate goal every single day, graphed away.
Correct. And I'm always very mindful of that. So every time I do a team meeting, you know, I'm more focused a lot of time on the shorter-term goal because I think the staff can see that. You know what I mean? Although I mentioned the long-term goal, you know,
we've got to,
man. But
that's your vision in it, really.
Yeah, 100%. But this one's more tangible, and I think we can achieve this in 12 months. You know, let's move towards that. And if my goal is to have bigger and better sales, you know, I need to think, how do I get that bigger and better sales? Right, website, digital marketing, better presence, you know, whatever it may be, and then dial it right back into what I'm doing that particular day. That particular day might be, I've got somebody build me a blog. Do you know what I mean? Or we're going to try a new social campaign, or
whatever.
We're going to tweak something like something so basic as that. Is that going to be? Then we assess it. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. Listen, I want to go back. Right, so there's a few things happened in between that time.
Yeah. Sorry.
And I want to go back to your cooking before we get to it. So can you tell us a wee bit about the cooking, your TV appearance? That was brilliant.
There's a couple of factors in that, James. So my dad was a keen cook. My dad's no longer with us, but he would always cook from scratch. So I was always brought up getting a home cooked meals, and you know, and I think that's really important for me, especially my kids as well. You know, and especially now I'm trying to move away from processed foods and get on
100%
whole foods.
We don't eat processed foods at all. I mean, and
my wife thinks
unless I have a packet of crisps or something like that, and I'm cheating.
I'm a real person at the same time. But anyway, I'll talk about it in a second. But like, my wife thinks I'm crazy with that. But anyways, but you know, he wasn't really any processed or unprocessed. We would just get fed a home cooked meal, and by and large, you wouldn't be eating unprocessed if you do that. Do you know what I mean? So that was it. Anyways, so I like to cook. When I got my first flat, you know, I get the kitchen all done up, and I was always cooking. And then my wife likes we like eating out all the time. We like her food. You know what I mean? We're not fussy eaters, whatever. So, anyways, we get friends and family over fairly infrequently. My mum comes in for a tea, and we're always cooking. I'm always cooking, really. And an opportunity came up. Turned out it was couples come down with me, right?
So couples come down with me, right?
Now, bear in mind, Amy doesn't cook, right? At all, right? She can make a wee pasta or a mac and cheese kind of thing, to be fair to her. But so Amy's mindset was, I'm going to apply for this. You'll do the cooking, and Amy does the hosting, right?
I'll host
She does it very well, right?
And she's a great host.
Right? Fabulous host, right? And she does the drinks and the incense and the canopies and all the bits, right? The phone interview, we had to tell a story, you know, an opinion. Have you got some strong opinions, Stuart, and all that kind of stuff? So I told my story one night.
You get strong opinions.
I do. So I told him the story one night that I left a party with no shoes on, and I opened this person's door, and I slept on this person's couch. I turned out I kind of half knew the woman, and anyways, she gave me her husband's shoes and her boyfriend's shoes, and I left to get home the next morning. And I ran in a pair of shoes, right? And I could hear them in the background like howling, like this is gold, right? And I was like,
you're on the show.
And I was like, I mean, I should have told that one. It was too good. I'm going to get in the show, right? Because it was all Amy. I wasn't too sure about it. And then I told my opinion, which is which was about overweight people on planes, right? And I said, I'm not overweight. I just think it's that I'm getting charged extra for taking my bags on planes. I think that's a joke. I think, you know, if you're a big fatty, then you should be paying extra. You know what I mean? That should be a cumulative body weight, right? So I hit them with that. I said, look, I think the chunkers should be paying a bit extra. And they made the call, Stuart. No, you're on the show and all that. We're like, oh, brilliant. And bear in mind, see at the table, there was a couple of folk that were overweight, right?
You're coming at me.
They told them, asked Stuart about his opinions on aeroplanes and overweight people, and they flung me right under the bus. They don't show that.
It was a brilliant show, by the way. It was a brilliant. They were all half pissed, I know.
They don't show that in the edits. Aye, they did, because in one of the episodes, two of the couples fell out with each other in our house.
That's right, so they did.
And one of the women stormed out. She's like, I'm not coming back, and they're disrespecting me, and they were calling her like names and all that as well. It got really heated, but this was none of it's in camera because it was a 5 o'clock show, right? And they went up to get her back in. But at this point, it was pitch black outside.
Mm-hmm.
It was pitch black because it was like 11 o'clock at night by the time we got to finish the main course.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I'm in there, I've got bottles of wine, so I'm just sitting pumping the wine on board. She's out there arguing with the producers and all that. Right? It was hours. And I'm just sitting, I was just rattling the wine, and then they actually come up to me and said, Stuart, any chance you can lay off the wine, mate? You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to get a show shot, and you're acting a bit pissed, and I was like, all right, so I felt like, this is my house, mate. You know what I mean? Like, and they still repeat it to this day.
That's right.
And see when it comes on, man. Like,
you still get the messages.
Still get a couple of texts. You're on the telly, whatever. You know.
I want to fast forward a few years now, and a really tough time in your life.
Yeah.
A really, really tough time.
Yeah, sure.
In your life. The reason I'm asking, by the way, is purely because, you know, we're here to help people who are maybe in business, they're going through hard times, they're struggling, they've got decisions to make in their life. But it's just to put it into perspective, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I want to go with that.
Not sure. I mean, I guess the one thing you see in business, you see various people for various walks of life, man, and everyone in business wants to do well commercially, but everyone's got a personal life as well. And you know, what's the point in doing all this if you've not got your health, your personal, your family, you know? And I guess that's you know how I think about it. But basically, my wife's type 1 diabetic, and she's had diabetes since she's been a little girl, so she's been injecting synthetic insulin her whole life, you know. And with that, when later on in life will come health complications, and I'm aware of that. There will be potential problems through pregnancy, and obviously our ambition was, of course, like many, to have kids. And what happened? We had our first son, Camden, and it was a really turbulent and traumatic experience where Amy's waters broke 3 months early. He was born at £2.09, I think he was. He was tiny. I mean, he was a fighter to survive. And because Amy's type 1 diabetic, we are red alert on the scale. We're in there every other week, getting assessed and discussing things and sugar levels. And Amy works so hard on her sugars to keep her sugar levels under a certain control so that she can keep the baby safe. Because if you don't, the baby can develop all sorts of a magnitude of problems under that. So it was a really, the whole pregnancy was just stressful. It wasn't a nice experience for me, or certainly not for Amy. Jesus, myself.
I remember you telling me about it.
But it was really tough. And Amy had what was the name of it again? Hyperemesis. So she was really, really sick throughout the whole thing. I mean, it was a tough watch, man. Honestly, it was. And anyways, Camden was born a success, and we spoke him briefly earlier. He was delivered safely. We went to have our second kid, and again we fell pregnant, and which was great. Amy one day checked her. She was saying she wasn't feeling too well. She was feeling very uptight, heart was thumping fast, and she checked her blood pressure. The blood pressure is one thing you need to always check, and the blood pressure was high. And off we went to hospital just to get checked up as you do. So at this point, I mean, we were talking in the car about what we're having for a takeaway that night. At this point, believe it or not, Amy never came back out of hospital. Wow. So this was the start of a really, really aggressive preeclampsia.
Oh my God.
The baby's going to need to come out, and Clark is his name. Clark at this point was, he was tiny in there. I think he was just over a pound, you know.
Wow.
And it just went from one bad to worse, you know. And Amy's face all swelled up really, really badly. And preeclampsia can kill mum, by the way.
That's right.
So it's severe risk to mum and to baby. And baby had to be delivered before mum literally went into a coma. So I got told she's going to go into a coma. Very high chance she's going to get into a coma, and there's a very high chance you're never going to see either of them again. I was told that just before they went to theatre, and they still like to prepare you for all this, you know. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it, man. Like, oh, this was happening to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was planning just coming home and having a curry that night, man.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so this happened over maybe like 36 or 48 hours. I can't remember exactly the exact time. It was just
a blur.
Oh, it was just chaos, man.
Life felt like it was falling apart around about you.
Aye. Massively, James. And then Clark was born, and they went straight in the ICU. And initially, Clark was doing quite well. But a lot of babies get a bounce at the start, right? Now, he was absolutely tiny. He was just over £1, I believe. I've got this right. He was born the 23rd of January. Towards the 12th day, man, his lungs weren't big enough to support him, and it just all went downhill, man, badly. And we got told we were going to have to turn the life support machine off, and that was it. We were going to. Clark was going to pass, man.
That was a tough time, wasn't it?
We sang it with sleep, and that was just man.
And you're trying to run a business during all this too, man.
Yeah, I mean, man, I was. And
keeping it together for your wife and being the strong Stuart. Because I know your personality is.
Yeah.
Hold it together.
I don't know, man. I just felt like we just went for the happiest moment of full expectation. It is the most catastrophic thing that could ever happen to a expecting family, you know.
Absolutely.
And I just felt hard done by, and I just felt it was so unfair on us, you know what I mean? Especially because we had a tough pregnancy the first time. I just was like, that was just so unfair.
Why us? Why me? Aye.
In a sense of kind of hopelessness, I guess, through this time, you know, I felt like I didn't know what I was going to do, and although I was busy enough in my business and trying to keep my mind occupied and all that, well, since then we decided that there was a law in England that could help women get screened for preeclampsia early in a pregnancy. This test wasn't the PLGF test, but it wasn't available in Scotland. So we set up a campaign for the charity called Clark's Campaign, and we then got a call from the First Minister to invite us into Holyrood to discuss the bringing in the test to Scotland. And that test is now being rolled out across the whole country. So Clark's Campaign is saving the lives of other babies and mums around Scotland right here, right now, which never happened before. So I just feel we've managed to make his real life count for something, James.
Absolutely.
And it's something that I'm obviously immensely proud of. And we've raised over £60,000. You know, we'll be raising more this year. We've actually got a company that's going to triple our money this year.
Amazing.
And we'll be doing loads more. So if there's anybody out there that's got anything to help or anything they can do to help us raise more, or
how did they get in contact with you then for the Clark's Campaign?
We could give you a bit more information to the website and also to the Clark's Campaign, our fundraising page, etc. But we're running again, and I'm midway, well not midway, I'm a bit through my marathon training again, and we're running London Marathon 24 with me and 3 of my friends this year. Super Clark's Golf Day will be on as always this year, and anything else we can do to benefit this brilliant wee charity, which is incredibly hard-working people. It's mad that, like, one thing I would say, James, is like, you know, you go through all your life in business trying to be successful and trying to get noticed and trying to get people out there. You know, the thing that I'm getting noticed for is something that I'm doing for free.
Aye, wow.
And it's certainly made me a better person. There's no question doing that for doing all that work for people and expecting nothing back.
Absolutely.
It's something that I think every person should do, and I honestly think it really does help you around you. It makes you more humble and grateful for things you've got in life, and makes you feel like you're doing something good for the world, you know.
Aye.
Which I guess it does for me.
I want to finish on a high note here. You've had another baby.
Yes.
You've got a daughter. Quickly, give a quick synopsis of your daughter.
It's a mad old life, James.
Light at the end of the tunnel there.
Yeah, man. So we get told if we were going to go for another baby, preeclampsia is very likely a chance again. I thought we just kind of gamble another one of our kids' lives, you know, like that. Not that we gamble with Clark's, but, you know, knowing that now, we just couldn't gamble. Anyways, we decided that we would like to have another baby. We were going to have one in Ukraine through a girl, but then the Ukraine war started. I thought, you kind of write this stuff.
Yeah.
And we just asked out to friends and family, look, man, like, we're help us out, man. Like, and I just said to Amy, you know, another thing I would suggest as well is I'm good at is, like, I'm not scared to admit when I need a bit of help, you know what I mean, and don't be too shy to do that, you know. And I just said, look, let's just ask for help, man. So we want to have another kid, you know, and it's not to replace Clark, it's just what we want a brother and sister for Camden, and we feel we're good parents, you know. We want to do that. Anyways, a friend put her hand up, and her name's Jennifer Halliday, and she came in and changed our lives, you know, and she said she would carry our baby, and we went to.
I've met her, by the way. She's an incredible woman, isn't she?
She's done all that.
Even just to offer her body up to that, I mean, that's mind blowing.
She's got 4 kids of her own.
Aye.
She's done it, and then she was going through a midwifery course at university at the time as well. It's the time was up against her, and everything was, and she came in and she went through the whole process with us, and
handed you a miracle. And
she handed us a miracle. Her name's Connie Geddes, and Connie's here now, and she's incredible, man. I'm just so kind of half glad she was a wee girl, James. You know, I didn't want a wee boy to just feel like I was replacing
Yeah,
Clark.
of course,
you know,
no, I get
Clark's
that.
got his place in my life, you know, and she's here now. She's mad. She's feisty. She's mad. She's 100 mile an hour. Good crack.
Aye.
You know, she's very temperamental, but she's good fun, Connie, and she just lit the house up. You know, and we're just she's a complete blessing. Some people don't get that opportunity. You know, we did again, and we're just so lucky to have her. So
A complete wee family now, eh?
a complete wee family, man, and that was just another stressful, difficult. Hard mental
Because you just don't know,
process.
don't you know? You're just going through this something brand new again.
We were turning up at for the scans, man, with two birds and a guy, man. They thought they were two lesbians. Two lesbians and an uncle. I'm even joking, man.
Listen,
I was like, what's going on here, man?
I wanna wrap it up. So, Advizion. So quickly, how can people get in contact with you if they're looking for screens, touch screens, you know, outside? So just give us some details how we can get in contact with you.
So we supply a range of commercial advertising screens, both indoor and outdoor, which are updated to the cloud. So that can be a big, you know, advertising billboard on the side of a road. It could be a backdrop to a theatre. It could be a menu screen in Costa Coffee, or it could be a high brightness screen on your salon window.
Yep.
We have recently revamped the website. It's advizion.co. Just .co after that. Apparently we're Colombian.
Yeah.
So check us out, and we're on all the socials. We've got the showroom in Paisley as well. If anyone wants to come down and see us and check out the products for a demonstration.
Listen, Stuart, it's been an absolute. I knew this was going to be an incredible podcast. Thank you so much for coming along, and I will make sure all your details are on the podcast for anybody that's looking to get a hold of you or find out anything more, in particular around, you know, for Clark's sponsorship and things like that. So listen, thank you, Stuart. It's been an absolute pleasure.
James, thanks a million. I really appreciate you inviting me on. It's been brilliant to catch up and tell you a little bit about myself. So thanks for the opportunity.
Brilliant, amazing.